Most people are unfamiliar with the city's early founders, the people who laid the groundwork for Boca Raton's growth and reputation. Names such as Rickards, Chesebro, Hughes, and Sakai have been lost in favor of Meisner, Butts, and Murakami. Today we are going to talk about Frank Howard Chesebro, one of the city's earliest pioneers, and certainly one of the people who built Boca Raton. Frank Howard Chesebro was born in Albany County, New York, December 10, 1850. By 1874, he was living in South Haven, Michigan, where he was a nurseryman growing peaches and apples. He first came to Florida in 1898 and 1899 with his wife Nettie for a visit. He returned in 1903 via sailboat seeking to purchase land to get away from the cold Michigan winters. After making a round trip to Miami and back, he settled on buying land in Little Boca Raton. He bought 100 acres of land from Captain Rickards. Remember Thomas Moore Rickards? Click the top eye icon on the right if you have not seen that video yet. He and a carpenter built his home just east of Dixie Highway and south of today's Camino Real. By winter of that year, Frank Chesebro, with his wife Nettie, his son Harry, who was 21 at the time, and his two daughters, Ruth and Esther, both in their teens, moved to Boca Raton. His oldest son, Alan, stayed in Michigan to run the family property, but would visit during the Michigan winters. Frank left behind 30 years' worth of daily diary entries. In just a few words, he managed to convey the changes he experienced from 1903 to 1936, from the day he arrived in Boca Raton to the day he died. From bicycle to automobile, from tiny farm town to famous boomtown development. His diaries are a unique and valuable resource for early South Florida historians. One of our favorite entries is when he recounts on August 27, 1909, to Miami and Morn and back on wheel, left at 11:30 in Deerfield at 5. This means he took a train to Miami and rode back to Boca Raton on a bicycle in the middle of August in the Florida heat. He was 58 at the time. The growing of pineapples, tomatoes, winter vegetables, and citrus was his chief occupation. Mr. Chesebro was the principal employer in the town's earliest era. Farming was literally a full-time job in South Florida. Many of his workers were African Americans who walked from Deerfield every day or possibly resided near his property. Before the community known as Pearl City was established in 1915, Alex Hughes was a notable resident of Pearl City, an employee of Chesebro. He would go on to become a leader within the Pearl City community. More about Mr. Hughes in the next video. In 1918, Frank Chesebro donated lands for the first cemetery in Boca Raton, located where the Royal Palm Yacht and Country Club is today. The first schoolhouse was built by hand on land donated by Frank Chesebro. Esther Chesebro taught at the school before Lawrence Gould took over as teacher for a time. Boca Raton's wooden schoolhouse was replaced by masonry structure in 1920. The original wooden building was moved on rollers by Frank Chesebro to Pearl City to serve as the school for African American children. This building would then later be replaced in 1928 by what would become the Rhodeman School. His property that comprised of southeast Boca Raton was acquired by Meisner Development Corporation to build the Cloister Inn and golf courses. In his diaries, Frank frequently referred to cooperative farming efforts with members of the Yamato colony, whom he and his family had an established relationship with. Frank taught the Yamato colonists how to grow American fruits and vegetables, including the pineapple, after the Japanese colonists discovered that there was no market for Japanese crops in America at the time. On a personal level, his wife Nettie worked side by side with Frank. She was a large part of the homestead operation, taking on many similar responsibilities to Frank and his son Harry. His sister Libby would in time join the family in Boca Raton to help Frank look after his home after Nettie's passing in 1928. At the age of 84, he and his sister Libby, 81 at the time, got lost in the Everglades near Hobe Sound for 4 and 5 nights respectively. Libby would eventually recover from the ordeal. However, it took a toll on Frank, who passed away 6 months later. Frank Chesebro remained an integral part of the Boca Raton community even after his passing. The love he had for his community, his occupation, and his wife can be seen in the letter he asked to be read at his funeral. My friends and neighbors, I have a few things to tell you before I go. I am going to leave you now forever. We have lived together a good many years, and now I go the way of all mankind. You have seen the quotation over the cemetery entrance. That which is so universal as death must be a blessing. I have tried to live a decent life and hope the world is no worse for my having lived in it 85 years. You will go home and leave me here alone to return to dust. But I will not be alone. My trees and shrubs will stay with me. Please pull out the weeds. Good night and goodbye, everybody. Now, Jeanette, my wife, I am here to stay with you forever. Frank and his family weathered the hard and often unforgiving environment of the pioneer era. While doing so, they not only managed to thrive here, but to become keystone members of early Boca Raton. He is one of our earliest and most reliable sources of information on our Black pioneers and Japanese pioneers. Frank Chesebro is truly one of the people who built Boca Raton.